season. And as for Real Madrid, their strong start does too. That is 4 wins from 4 now for the Madridistas. A 2-1 victory over Xabi Alonso's boyhood team, Real Sociedad. Another 3 points on the board for Real Madrid as we welcome in Mario Suarez to talk more about this. Mario, you told us in Mallorca that Real Madrid are going to do all right this season, even when they're not at their best.
Yes, as we talk in Mallorca, and as I said before, Real Madrid don't need to play well to win matches. They have the best striker in the world for me right now, Kylian Mbappé, the best goalkeeper, Thibaut Courtois, when the team is not playing well, and you have that keeper, it gives you peace, it gives you relax, it permits you to relax sometimes, and is when you get points, and this kind of points is the ones you remember when you win the league. So I think the fans must be happy with Xabi Alonso. Xabi Alonso must be happy with his players because today they demonstrate that they know how to suffer when they have to suffer, and they must be happy today.
When it comes to that red card for Dean Huijsen, you didn't agree, LA?
Never a red card. Never, ever, ever a red card. Now, it's a dumb foul to be committing by Dean Huijsen, because if we know something about Mikel Oyarzabal, is yes, he's got a lot of touches and a lot of quality to his game. Speed is not one of the qualities of his game, so he was never going to run away from Dean Huijsen. I have no idea why VAR doesn't get involved. Regardless, the call stood for whatever the case may have been. There are moments in which we ask the question, VAR should have gotten involved. This seemed like a clear opportunity for VAR to say, nah, not quite there. I was so surprised that they did not call Jesus Gil Manzano, saying, why don't you take a second look at this? Because there's a second player involved in the play that could provide cover for Huijsen. It should not have been a red card.
And yet, Stevie, they still won the game.
Yeah, they did. I mean, when you've got talent the way they have, then you're always going to have a chance. And as Mario said, you've got arguably the best centre-forward in the country, in the land right now, then you're always in with a shout. And just that extra bit of quality can make all the difference. And again, it showed itself today. Can I go back to the referee thing? I don't understand a referee who has the option of being able to look at VAR. I don't understand them not taking it. Because even if you think you're right, why don't you make sure you're right? It's a huge decision.
Well, if they don't call him, though, if they don't tell him to go and see it, then he must have thought, I got this right.
But then surely at the very least, he has to be asking questions. And then if I'm a referee and if I'm in the VAR and the referee says to me, look, I think this is a red, I've got the red out, but I think I should have a look. Surely you just go, yeah, okay, on you go. But surely that has to be the protocol. Just because one guy gets it wrong, it's okay for two to get it wrong? I mean, it makes no sense. There's no way that he can see the cover on Tyson because he's run. He couldn't wait to get there with the red card either. I mean, he's sprinting after him. He was going to hit him in the back of the head with it.
What was your take on it, Mario? Was it a red card for you?
Well, this referee sent me off 2 times in my career, so I cannot say too many good words about him. No, I'm joking. But for me, never is a red card. It's never. I think Militao will arrive to the ball, even Militao, that is faster, is strong, and it was close to the ball. And this is never a red card. And as you are saying, I don't understand why the VAR didn't call the referee and say it's not red card. Please review it and say that it's a yellow card, but it's not a red card. Never for me.
Let's just go back because Real Madrid did hang on, did survive, did get the result. But you mentioned something about the individual talent, and it's something that both Mario and Stevie alluded to, and it's Kylian Mbappé. While he scores the goal today and he provides the assist, there was also a play in the second half in which he essentially by himself was putting behind, turns everybody around from Real Sociedad. He's running by people, he's cutting to the inside, cuts to the inside again, ends up missing the opportunity. But it is in those plays in which you see how much of a powerful force this guy is, how unstoppable he can be when he gets momentum going forward and when he has the freedom to run wherever he wants to run. What I've liked about Kylian Mbappé today, and certainly in the beginning of this season for Real Madrid, is that he's not just staying central, I'm going to hang around here, or withdrawing from the front line. His runs have purpose in behind, much better than they did all of last season. The in-to-out runs, the movement that exploits and utilizes his own speed to leave defenders behind. The movement today of Kylian Mbappe was excellent. The execution was excellent as well. And he did in the second half what the team required him to do. Playing with 10 men, you need an outlet. You need somebody who can actually provide you that outlet so that you can relieve some pressure. And he did that very well for Real Madrid. I thought it was an excellent performance from Mbappe.
Do you think that's getting to do with Alonso? You know, how many times did we sit here last year and criticise Mbappe for being offside? Because he was standing up front. You're just talking about him coming from wide to in. That way he can look along the line and make sure he's onside. Again, is that down to Alonso?
Well, maybe. But while I'm being positive on Mbappe, I think one of the things that you have to highlight if you're Real Madrid is that you're winning matches and you're perfect without really getting a whole lot from Vini today, for example. When they're playing together, that's still something that needs to be sorted out for Real Madrid. Because Vini has this tendency of limiting his game towards the sideline, whereas him and Mbappe are able to work off of each other, they will make each other more dangerous. But if they work separate, independent of each other, then Mbappe is doing his thing, Vini's doing his thing, and the attack loses fluidity, and they're not nearly as dangerous separate from each other as they would be together.
Let's just focus on this Atleti game. That's got to be a really, really good victory for them. We knew they needed their first victory of the season. They've also kept a clean sheet. This could be their fresh start in Diego Simeone's eyes.
They needed it for many reasons. Some of those reasons we established in the pregame. Had Atletico Madrid lost today or not won this match today against Villarreal, I think you can say adios to the La Liga in terms of contending for a title. I don't think they can make up that sort of difference against Real Madrid, nor Barcelona for that matter. And so it was a must-win. And when it becomes a must-win, then the performance itself doesn't mean a whole lot as long as you get the result. But what I think you can highlight today from Atletico Madrid, especially the first 20, 25 minutes, it was a really good performance where they were willing to press higher up the field, where they were organized behind that pressure. He's different than any other player that Diego Simeone and Atletico Madrid have available. It's important for them to have this change of pace. I think he'll be useful to Diego Simeone. Overall, very good 3 points and a necessary 3 points for Diego Simeone and Atletico Madrid.
Yeah, Nico Gonzalez just sliding in before the transfer window closed. As for Mario Suarez, watching that, wasn't too positive in our pre-game today. It has to be said.
Nervous.
Nervous, negative a little bit. But you did say 2-0. That was your prediction, Mario. How do you feel about what you saw today from Atleti?
Well, I knew it. Easy for me. Okay, no, I'm joking. Well, as Ale said, I think Ale explained it perfectly. For me, the first 20 minutes were the best minutes of Atletico de Madrid, pressing high, scoring the first goal. Giuliano has the chance to score the second one and to kill the match there. But they didn't. After that moment, the last 20 minutes of the first half were for Villarreal with the free kick from Pepe, the chances from Moleiro, 1v1 against Jano Black. But they didn't score. And in the second half, when Villarreal was playing better, or better than Atletico de Madrid, they scored the second goal. Good goal from Nico Gonzalez. Great first match for him, I think. I think he's a good player, different kind of player, as Ale said. But we cannot obvious that today Atletico win because they shot on target just 2 times and they scored 2 goals. That in the previous matches, they struggled to score goals. And that's where, because of that, is now because they only have 5 points and they are struggling to fight for the title. But I think today there are positive things for Atletico Madrid. The negative ones, the injuries from Hanco, from Lenormand. Let's see what happens with Julian Alvarez. But I think Cholo must be happy today.
A brilliant start for Juventus and an absolutely classic Derby d'Italia. Time to welcome in Gabriele Marcotti to talk more about it. Brilliant game, Gab, and brilliant goals as well. Quality throughout in what we saw today in this clash.
Yeah, absolutely tremendous goals. What we saw there from, especially those long-range strikes from Kenan Yildiz and Hakan Çalhanoğlu. It's funny, Not funny if you're Turkish, but they get their backsides handed to them by Spain, and then they come back to Turkey players with performances like this one. But a tremendous boost for Igor Tudor and what he's trying to do at Juve. On the Inter side, the knives are already out for poor Christian Kivu.
Yeah, back-to-back losses for Inter. So what's going on there, Gab?
Well, a lot of the narrative surrounds the fact that when Kivu came in, he's like, look, I'll just continue the great work that Inzaghi's done. Don't expect big changes. Certainly in the transfer window, Manuel Akanji came in, Benjamin Pavard went out, but essentially, the starting 11 was unchanged. And some people thought, hey, what worked before for Inzaghi isn't necessarily going to work for you. You should make your mark on the team. You should try to do things a bit differently. And I think what we're seeing so far is, wonder, has age caught up with him a little bit? Certainly defensively, what we saw, I thought Sommer was certainly at fault for one of the goals. Certainly the last goal, I thought maybe could have done better. The way you leave Lloyd Kelly, who, by the way, I think I'm correct in saying has never scored a senior goal in his entire career until tonight. I don't know if they looked at him and said, hey, it's Lloyd Kelly, we don't need to worry. But I thought Manuel Akanji should have gotten closer to him. So these little kind of defensive foibles, which you can look at it and say, well, what do you expect? Inter aren't a great team defensively. Look what happened to them in the Champions League final. But I think that's a bit unfair. That was Paris Saint-Germain. This was Juventus. This was a game where they had control and they lost it. And I think that underscores what a difficult job Kivu has filling Simone Inzaghi's shoes.
On the flip side, though, what's the feeling in Italy about Juventus right now? Perfect start for them, Gab. Could this be their year?
And not just that, we should also point out, Jonathan David didn't start, Lois Openda didn't start, and those are the two of their big additions in the summer up front. So certainly it bodes very, very well. Now, there's still a lot of things, I think, to figure out. I don't want to pick on Lloyd Kelly, but seeing him in that back three, you wonder, can this last the whole season in Europe and domestically as well? But he certainly has given them much more directness, much more purpose. And also, I'm sorry, I'm a Dusan Vlahovic fan. When he's good, he's really good. And the way they tried every which way to get rid of him, to move him out because of his monster contract and the fact that it's expiring in June. And then at the end, he sticks around. I think that's a feature, not a bug. It's a blessing in disguise. If you've got a highly motivated Vlahovic in there, together with David, together with Openda, together with Kenan Yildiz, who's unplayable when he's like this, Chico Conceição. I mean, you've got a group up there that I think can do a lot of damage offensively. And I think defensively, the back three gives you that platform, that solidity. So I'm not going to go out and crown them just yet, but I think Juventus will definitely be competitive.
Some great storylines so far already in the Serie A. You can hear a lot more of them from Gab and Jules on the Gab and Jules show. It drops twice a week, wherever you do get your podcasts. 2-2 with that late equaliser from Brentford, denying Chelsea all 3 points in this game. Nader Manua was watching it for us today. He joins us now. What's your biggest takeaway from what you saw in this clash, Nader?
To be honest, I think from my perspective and probably the perspective of quite a few others, we thought maybe Brentford would be struggling a bit this season, with the change in manager, losing some of the attackers that they had. But again, they just seemed to find a way. I thought Chelsea were the better side overall throughout the game. But the fact that there's that never say die attitude from Brentford is something that we're used to seeing. And they're just doing it with slightly different personnel now. And I think the fact that Chelsea have kind of given away those 2 goals, I think they'll be hugely disappointed, because I think within that game itself, they moved the ball well. They seem to be controlling tempo. They weren't creating a ton of really big chances, but on comes Cole Palmer. You see different types of opportunities, and he had a very big chance, which unfortunately was saved by Kelleher from his perspective. But yeah, to give Brentford credit, the fact that they never give up, and there'll be so many teams that will go to their stadium this season and feel like the game is going in their favour, but then they can just have those little moments. And, to give Jordan Henderson credit for that assist. It's a great ball in behind for Shard, a great ball. And then in the end of the game, as I say, get the bodies in there. It's the physicality. And I think from a Chelsea standpoint, you've got Garnacho marking Carvalho at the back post, and that shouldn't really matter if you make the first contact. But when you miss that first contact with the flick on, before you know it, anything could happen. And yeah, Brentford will be absolutely delighted with that point, I feel.
Stevie, Chelsea denied at the death the victory.
Yeah, Championship winning teams don't do that. Not against the team. I mean, I think Nedum's been kind to Brentford, because I thought they were pretty awful. I mean, we showed the stats there. I don't remember 4 shots on target. When I think of the game, all I think about is a rear guard action, getting bodies in the way from shots and making challenges. You know, Brentford didn't play football today. And yes, you've got to give them credit for keeping going, but Chelsea, 100%, this is down to them. They absolutely threw 3 points away, completely dominated the game. Goodness knows how many passes they had, but total domination. And I think it was pretty much a little bit of robbery. But as I said, you don't win the Premier League title if you throw 2 points away against a side like Brentford, who will be struggling. This team will struggle big time all season.
Obviously, for Cole Palmer, getting a goal today is important for him to get the season underway.
Well, I suppose so. But if Cole Palmer is the player that I think he is, he's happy about having scored the goal, but he's probably thinking about the chance that Nedum mentioned. And it was a point in the game in which you felt like it was getting away from Brentford, and it was all Chelsea all the time. He scores that, makes it 2-1. At that point, it didn't feel like Brentford were ever going to come back. Now, you give credit to Kelleher in coming up with the save, but it's a chance that falls to the left foot of Cole Palmer right around the penalty spot. With full momentum going towards goal, it's got to go in the back of the net. So I know what you're trying to do, Cade, turning it into a positive for Cole Palmer. And of course, scoring is something that makes it a good game for you. But when your team doesn't get the 3 points and you know you had a clear opportunity, if you are any player that have anything about you, you know you're going to be thinking about that one, because that one hurts.
I think the same, Nedum, mixed feelings for Cole Palmer that he gets his first goal of the season, but then he has that chance.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. And I think with Cole Palmer, the conversation that was being had amongst the commentary about this game was the fact that we saw him do well in the Club World Cup, for example, but that was his first goal in the league since January. And that's such a big surprise for a player that has the quality that he has. Because as Stevie was saying, like, look at that finish. It's the easiest thing in the world for him. Just a little half volley, just slam that into the corner. Well, that's why we fully believed that he'd score that other chance that he had from the cutback on the right-hand side. But I think, as is the case with most things in football, when you make a mistake, as long as it doesn't matter, you can almost laugh and joke about it. But then all of a sudden, when that second goal goes in for Brentford, that discussion about that chance is a slightly different one now. Because it's a case of we have to score these goals. If we want to be a team that wins the league, as Stevie's saying, we have to be able to capture these moments and not sort of succumb to dropping 2 points so late in a game away from home where we've been so comfortable. So I think Cole Palmer will be disappointed from that. But I think he'll also just be hoping for a clean bill of health now, because he's had a few injuries in the last few months, which is in some ways a bit unlike him in these first 3 years of his career. So, yeah, there's disappointment. But again, him being out there is always going to be a huge bonus for Chelsea.
Chelsea's going to be really disappointed in how easily Brentford, without doing a whole lot, are able to score goals. The first goal, yeah, it's a good ball from Jordan Henderson, but it's a ball into an area in which you already have 2 defenders there, and yet Shada is allowed to just cut to the inside, and it felt like Brentford didn't have to do a whole lot to get themselves in a dangerous position and be scoring a goal. The second goal, yes, it's a long throw-in, but you ought to be able to defend this, particularly and especially late in the match. See it out. See it through. Be a championship team. Be a championship winning team. If indeed that's the aspiration for Chelsea, to Stevie's point, these are things that you cannot allow to happen.
You got the final thoughts, AV?
Chelsea's Achilles heel, no question, is defensively. The centre-back partnership with Colwell not there is in fact, the little triangle between the 2 centre-backs, Tosin Chalobah and the goalkeeper Sanchez, is really where their weakness is. And we saw it today on that first goal. I know it was Fofana that was with Tosin on that occasion, but regardless of who they put there, that's where their weakness is, and that's going to cost them.
3-0 it would finish to Arsenal. Remember, they were beaten by Liverpool before the break, so this is a good bounce back for them. That result against Nottingham Forest. Nedum still with us. A good day for the new signings, Nedum.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if we would have started the conversation by saying Arsenal would be without Odegaard for the majority of this game, no Saka, no Declan Rice, we wouldn't expect them to be comfortable. But instead, we saw Mosquera do well. We've seen a few other players do well as well within that setup for Arsenal. And don't get me wrong, you don't necessarily have to rely on, big Zubimendi at the back post to make it 3-0 or having to connect with those volleys from 20, 25 yards out. But it was a great day for them. And to put some perspective on it, Forest were quite poor today, but I think it's because of the way that Arsenal played against them. I think Nico Williams at left back for Forest has probably had one of the toughest days of his career. Madueke really took it to him for the entirety of his spell on that pitch. And the energy was good there. That's more of a continuation of like the way Arsenal played against Leeds as opposed to the game against Liverpool, which was obviously a tight game 2 weeks ago. So yeah, the feeling's high, the sun was shining, there were plenty of goals, new strikers scoring tap-ins at the back post, getting assists from, the new signing from one side as well. So yeah, it's definitely a feel-good factor, and now we can almost have a conversation right now about Arsenal having quite good strength and depth, which is something that I don't think we've been able to say for the past few years.
Can we have that conversation?
Yeah, I was hoping we'd have a conversation about Ange Postecoglou, to be honest.
Oh, we'll get there.
Okay.
We'll get there.
But yeah, absolutely. The front three is a completely new front three from last year. The problem Arsenal had wasn't defensively, it was in the attacking areas. And the fact that they have pretty much got what they had last year and they've added Eze, Gyökeres and Madueke, 100% and we need them. That absolutely makes them stronger. They have no question strengthened all around the field. And again, that's why we end up with this has to be the year for Arteta. He's never going to have a better squad of players at Arsenal. He's not. It's an impossibility for them to bring any more players in to make it better, quite frankly.
Enough for you to get excited about today, Ale?
I'll answer that by saying that you only needed to watch this game for the first 5 minutes and know that it was going to be 3-0 Arsenal. That's how comfortable and dominant they looked. There was never a doubt that Arsenal were going to be the team that had the ball, that had the possession, that were going to create the chances. Madueke is still running Nico Williams to the ground. Cut him to the inside, cut him to the outside, spin around, spin this way, spin that way, not catching him. And then on the other side, you're thinking, okay, well, how is Eze and what is his role on the left-hand side? Because he's not exactly a winger. And yet, sometimes he gets involved in the possession in the middle. Sometimes he runs in behind, as he did for the goal by Gyökeres. And you're seeing variety. And then you're thinking, well, we brought Zubimendi here to be a guy who's more of a tempo setter, more of a guy that can win balls in the midfield, but is very clean on the ball. And he's scoring volleys, and you're going, right. And these three guys were not here last year, right? And so it's 3-0. It's comfortable with some of your best players not even on the field, not available to play. If you go back to last year and think about the best players for Arsenal, you would have said in that list would have been Bukayo Saka, would have been Declan Rice, and when healthy, you would have said Martin Odegaard. Those guys are over there, sitting on the stands, sitting on the bench, or coming off injured. They're over there, not available. And yet, there was never a doubt about Arsenal today. The more you do that, the more I think the credentials of Arsenal and Mikel Arteta, being not only a title contender but a title favorite, continue to gain strength. They look the part, and they have the strength and depth that you just mentioned, which will allow them over the course of the season grind out results when it's necessary. And the more times you're able to win games like you did today with this level of comfort, it will allow you to have more legs to have the ability to grind when it comes down to it. I thought Arsenal were very good today.
All right, Stevie, obviously chomping at the bit to talk about Ange Postecoglou coming in at Forest. What do you want to say?
Well, I was sitting watching the game and I'm thinking, if Ange Postecoglou at any stage had any thoughts about trying to sort of keep this group doing what they did last year, where they keep it tight and break. After about an hour, I'm sure he would go, you know what, there's absolutely no way I'm doing that. If I'm going to lose, I'm going to lose my way. I'm not going to sit and watch this every week. That's not. Ange Postecoglou is not bringing his team and putting them out on the field and doing what they did, or try and do what they did today.
Because he's promised silverware again, Stevie.
I'll tell you what, he's pushing it. He's pushing it, because this Nottingham Forest side today, I mean, I'm trying to remember, other than the Chris Woods when it hit his chest, it wasn't even a chance or a pass or anything. And I don't think they were in the opposition half. And this whole keep it tight and counter-attack with pace. Well, all the pace is gone. Alanga's gone. I mean, Gibbs White touched the ball once in the opposition penalty box today. So there is absolutely no way Ange Postecoglou is not going to try and turn this Forest side into an attacking, all-out, get-after-it team. He is not going to go the way they did today and the way they did last year. So you can forget it. If there was any doubts, what he sat and watched today has convinced himself, I'm not doing that. I'm doing it my way.
Do you agree with Stevie, Nader?
Yeah, I do agree, to be honest. And I think it would be tricky for him to try and instill some of those beliefs in the first, couple of days of him being manager there. But he's not been brought in to carry on the legacy of the previous manager. Neither was the case with Nuno when he replaced like Cooper there as well. I think he's been brought in for a reason, to try and get the team to play in a style which maybe the owner wants. It's not necessarily going to be to the same level that they were doing at Spurs when they're at their best, because it's a different profile of player. Those guys at Forest, their strengths probably lie elsewhere. But I think he will find a way to get the team to be more on the front foot. I think a Postecoglou team is one that tries to press high, tries to keep good possession, and it's all about sort of the high speed running, the sprints, the transitions and all that stuff, which isn't necessarily something that, say, Forest would do as a whole, because in the past there's almost like a reliance upon 2 or 3 to get the ball up the pitch. But yeah, his style will come in, and he said himself today, like, it will take time. How much time, I'm not exactly sure, but I think in some ways they've got quite a deep squad as well now, and they'll probably need it because they'll be playing in Europe as of next week as well. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he goes, and the style of football definitely will change. And I think the expectation at Forest has changed as well, because only, say, 3-4 years ago, you're looking at a side that hadn't been in the Premier League for over 20 years, whereas now we're talking about a side who comfortably say, we've brought this manager in because we want trophies and we happen to be in Europe as well.
Hansi Flick is very annoyed with the Spanish national team due to their handling of Barca's Lamine Yamal, who played in both qualifiers against Bulgaria and Turkey, even though he had an existing groin issue. So is he available this weekend?
For me, it's a pity, because it's, he go to the national team with pain. He trained nothing with the national team. He got pain killers for playing. They 3 goals in every match. They have 3 goals ahead. He played 79 and 73 minutes against Bulgaria. Between the matches, he doesn't train, or he didn't train. And this is not to taking care about players. This is not. I think Spain, they have the best team in the world, best players in the world. In every position, they are unbelievably good. So maybe also when we want to take care about players, about young players, it's like that, doing this. So this is what I can say, and I'm really sad about this.
So it has resulted in Lamine Yamal not being available for the game against Valencia, and he could be ruled out of Champions League action next week as well. Sid, Hansi Flick has a right to be annoyed here.
I think he does, and I was counting as I was listening to him then, and I'm probably going to forget one now, but I think there were 7 reasons he put forward as to why this doesn't sit right with him. There was the reason that Spain are a really good team anyway. They didn't necessarily need him. The reason that they were 3 goals up in both games, they didn't need to keep him on the pitch. That he played over 70 minutes in both cases. That he turned up having already had the federation informed that he wasn't able to play, or at least that he wasn't fully fit, that he had pain-killing injections, that he didn't train. That's 6. I'm missing one. There must be a 7th there somewhere, because I was counting them. But the point I'm making is that Hansi Flick isn't just kind of throwing his arms up in the air, and isn't just kind of saying this is wrong. It's him saying, look, here's a whole series of things that possibly should have been red flags. And Hansi Flick does it with a normal, calm and rational approach to it, but he's unhappy about it. And I think he is entitled to be unhappy. Now, I must admit, normally, okay, and I think probably our viewers are aware of this from previous discussions, I'm normally quite defensive of national teams when it comes to players' injuries, because I think actually sometimes they're the easy target. And everyone talks about the national teams as if that's the only place where players get injured, and as if they're the only people who should take care of players, and clubs can just do what they want. Now, admittedly, there's always the argument about it's the fact that it's the clubs that pay them. But on this occasion, I think Hansi Flick has there laid out 7, all of them pretty good reasons why really and truly this should have been handled differently.
Yeah, it's not great, is it? When he's taking painkillers, he's got an existing issue.
Yeah, and if that's the case, my question would be to Hansi Flick and to Barcelona, why are you allowing him to go? If indeed you feel so strongly about what his condition is, that he needs to take painkillers in order to be available to play against Bulgaria and Turkey, then maybe he should not have gone. The only reason I mention that is because now, in the future, if this comes up again and he is somewhere in between where physically he's not at 100% or close to full fitness, Barcelona is going to say, we don't trust Luis de la Fuente and we don't trust the Spanish Federation to take care of our player, and therefore we're going to skip this one. He's not going to be allowed to go because of this injury condition. It's now creating an unnecessary contentious relationship between the player, the team, and the national team. And Barcelona obviously wants to protect their asset. And much like Sid, I'm all for national teams. I have the utmost respect for the national team and the importance of playing for your national team. But if a player, you know full well, comes into your camp carrying an injury, nursing an injury, where he has to take painkillers in order to be available to play, you go up 3-0 against Bulgaria, he's got to come off the field. You're kicking the backside of Turkey as they were, as dominant as they were. He's got to come off the field. And there were substitutions that were made ahead of Lamine Yamal coming off the field. Even when I didn't know the background and the backdrop of this information provided by Hansi Flick, I was still asking the same question in watching those games. Why is this kid still on the field? Now that I know this, I'm even more alarmed. I'm thinking, this is mismanagement, and what you're doing is you are playing with the future of your big boy, of your big golden child, of the present and the future of your national team. And you're gambling with his fitness. I think the national team and Luis de la Fuente should have a much bigger picture in mind than just beating Bulgaria and Turkey.
Meanwhile, Sid, you are at the Metropolitano. You were there for the game between Atleti and Villarreal today. Atleti getting their first 3 points of the season, a very important 3 points for Diego Simeone's men.
Yeah, and I think that was shown by something that you post-game, almost every game, I'm struggling to think of more than 3 or 4 examples in his entire time here. Simeone, when the whistle goes, turns and sprints up the tunnel and gets out of here. Gets out of here as quick as he can and gets to the dressing room straight away. This time he stayed out. And he stayed out with his players. He was still first up the tunnel when the players went to celebrate the fans. But I think that tells you something about the sense of relief at having won today and having played pretty well as well. In fact, Simeone gave an interview in midweek with a Spanish radio station, which he talked about how victories are not joy anymore. They're relief. And I think today, that's the relief he got.
Absolutely. Sid, great to have you with us as always. We'll have more La Liga action coming your way tomorrow. No Lamine Yamal, unfortunately, but hopefully he gets some very important rest. Barcelona against Valencia coming up on Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern. Our coverage will begin at 2:30 with all the build-up on Plus and Deportes. But as for West Ham, they are winless in 7 Premier League games at the London Stadium. Imploding once again at home. It's hard not to start there at the moment, Naden, because really we look at the pressure that Graham Potter is under after this latest result.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in terms of the West Ham mentality, having had Lopetegui to start the last season, which didn't feel like a great fit anyway, to then bring in Graham Potter, who in the same way didn't feel like a great fit, but nothing changed. So you think, well, the summer's here, maybe things will be positive, but it wasn't a great summer for them either. And there's so many questions about some of the players that they still had in the team. What's the team's identity as such? Are they dynamic enough? Because essentially, in the Premier League, you need to have that level of dynamism to almost be able to compete. And West Ham didn't really have that. So to go from, winning there away from home 2 weeks ago, I think it was 3-0, to then essentially just being rolled over at home to a Spurs side who, interestingly, haven't won against West Ham at the West Ham Stadium or London Stadium in 6 years. I think it's hugely disappointing, and it's the nature of these performances as well, because when they go, it seems like they really collapse. And Spurs, they are a good side, but no fan wants to come to the stadium, watch their team be rolled over again. And, with probably 5-10 minutes to go in that game, you saw a lot of white seats, a lot of very, very empty spaces in a stadium where you never know, maybe something could happen. But unfortunately, it just doesn't seem to be the right sort of fit with Potter. And I'm sure he is a good coach. He has some good ideas, but you just can't find the spark at West Ham at the minute. And I don't think that many people in that stadium still believe in him.
Got a fear for him, Stevie?
Yeah. And I can't come up with one reason why you would have a problem complaining that West Ham have let them go so early in the season. I mean, they've lacked anything. No guile going forward, no strength defensively. I mean, they lost 3 at Sunderland, then they lost 5 at home to Chelsea, and then they've lost another 3 at home today. I mean, I can't think of one reason in the defence of Graham Potter as to why he should still be West Ham manager. They looked ragged, disjointed. They had a little spell in the first half of 5 minutes where, so early in the season, it gave you a little bit of hope. There was some nice passes, there were a couple of half chances, and you think, okay, something's changed. And then the trap door, okay, the trap door was opened and down they went. So, yeah, I'm sorry. I think Potter will be lucky if he's in charge next weekend.
As for Tottenham Hotspur, though, Naden, bar that blemish against Bournemouth, it's been a really good start for Thomas Frank.
Yeah, it's been very, very good. I think you're seeing a more sort of consistent style of football that can bring out the best in those players. And I think more interestingly is the fact that he's willing to rotate some of those players as well. You know, and this time now you're seeing Simon start on the left-hand side. You see Matisse Tell start. But then they've also got Solanke. You know, they've got Richarlison as well who could have played. And it seems like he's just trying to pick the right team in the midfield and the attack that suits the occasion itself. And the way in which they're going to do it, yes, they'll keep possession at times. The energy will be high at times. Sometimes going to be set pieces, as we saw with that Sarr goal. Sometimes going to be long throws into the box. And I'm sure someone like Bergvall probably didn't even realise that they had a long throw until Thomas Frank said, well, you're good with your feet, but what you like with your hands? So, yeah, it's been good. It's been impressive. It's positive. It seems consistent. It seems like the players understand it. And for now, they're getting some very, very good outcomes. Obviously, the game against Bournemouth was a bit concerning, and there were some boos from the home fans in that game 2 weeks ago. But overall, you've got to be happy as a Spurs fan because the Champions League is about to start. You're a part of that, and you've won 3 out of your 4 games to start the season. So, you know, long may that continue for them.
Good start for Spurs, Stevie.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, yeah, the hiccup last time out, but you know, Thomas Frank has got them right in between where they were with Nuno and Mourinho and Conte with this defensive drab stuff. Whereas you go to Ange, it's the complete opposite, where it's helter-skelter, gamble, running all over the shop. Thomas Frank comes in and just parks the bus right in the middle of both of those. They're good going forward when they need to be, and they're good and tight and solid defensively when they need to be. They just look like a real good, strong, solid team.
Anything to add, Ali?
I think something that Stevie said there, when you watch Spurs play, you know who they are.
Yeah.
And many of the teams that we have been discussing and highlighting their struggles, the one thing that all of them have in common is there is very little identity. Whereas with Spurs, there is an identity and there is organization, which early on in the season is the one thing that you have to get right when you're a new manager. This is what we're going to do. This is our game plan. This is our organization. And from here, this is how we're going to attack and allow our talented attacking players to take over. So this is when you actually see the work of a manager. And when you contrast it to what's going on the other side of the field with West Ham, then you can really see, all right, this is a team with a plan and a group of players that are skilled and talented enough to carry out the plan. And then there is that over there. And whatever is going on over there, yeah, it's not working. You see the contrast, you see the organization, you see the structure, you see the plan, you see nothing over on the other side. That highlights how much better Spurs were than West Ham today. We can worry about what the people and the players that are here and those that we can count on to win games for us.
He made Joe Linton look small there, didn't he?
I mean, he's absolutely massive.
Big Nick.
6'6". Big Nick and Big Nick is. Nadim, you know what it's like in my native northeast. What a great way to start for him at St James's Park.
Oh, absolutely. And you're talking about somebody here who's the club's record signing, a big striker. You know, they want to see him do well. You know, seeing strikers do well for Newcastle, you can see the crowd really get up for it with that being the case. Somebody they can pin their hopes onto, somebody that could maybe score 20 goals in a season, maybe, you know. And we understand he's a young player, you know, he's such a big prospect. But to start like that is amazing. It reminds me in some ways of a couple of seasons ago when Tonali scores in the opening game for them at home to Aston Villa, and the crowd get right behind him as well. I think when you have that energy and you start in that manner, people will give you time. You know, there's no expectation as such. They're just so happy that you're there, and they've seen you have that moment that will sort of bond you with them for, you know, for the foreseeable future. But it's interesting in terms of how this game went today, because to be honest, it wasn't a great game, not least of all in the second half. Wolves will probably feel like they could have gotten something from the match, but it's interesting. So Voltemade, as you guys know, for as big as he is, he doesn't score a ton of headers. I think it was one headed goal scored in Bundesliga last season. So to start for Newcastle in that manner, I just hope they're not expecting to see him at the back post towering over people every single week, because likelihood is if he plays to his game, that's probably not going to be the case. But what way to start? And I think after the match as well, the talk was he had to get substituted because he was getting cramps because the Premier League, it was tough, the nervous energy and so on. And I like that. That's the element of purity about somebody wanting to do well, a young player in a new club, new environment, new everything, and the sort of tension and the pressure, you know, it gets to everybody at some stage, and that's the human side of things as well.
Yeah, Ali and I did discover Nick Voltemade.
Yeah.
We certainly feel like we did anyway. Good start for him. As for Wolves, not a good start for them at all. But here is the Manchester City, Manchester United predictions. Ali, you'll be very happy that I actually did finally give a prediction.
Yeah, you gave a prediction and then you sat on the fence. Good job, Kev.
Made him gave it the old 3-2 for Man City. Well, no, it won't be pointless. It'll be 1 point each. We won't talk about it, though, because there'll be a lot of talk about this game tomorrow, of course, on ESPN
I hope Nottingham is back tomorrow.
Fiorentina were beaten by Napoli. 2 of those goals you can see there. De Bruyne on the score sheet, Huijsen as well, and Sam Bokema. And so, big win for Napoli, good start for Napoli, and a good start at his new club for Rasmus Højlund, Gab. Are we getting the Atalanta version of Højlund now at Napoli?
Well, based on what we saw so far, you're certainly getting a much better version than the version we saw at Manchester United. What's the difference? Could it be that he has a better coach and he has a better system around him? I think so. He's come into a settled team. Conte wants him to attack the spaces. He still needs to improve. He's there to replace Lukaku, who's obviously out for a long time with injury. He can't do what Lukaku does back to goal. He doesn't have the physical presence. But what he can do is he can attack the space. And against a side like Fiorentina, who are a more attacking side, who do concede that space behind, Højlund was very effective, and Napoli looked really, really good once again.
Are they favourites, Gab?
I think they certainly have to be right up there, especially when you consider Inter's slow start, when you consider all the question marks surrounding Milan. Again, it seems incongruous saying they're favorites because, you know, everybody in football is superstitious, and, you know, they don't quite get the whole concept of sample size, and they all say, oh no, Conte wins in year 1, but in year 2 the players get tired of him, he becomes unpleasant, he starts complaining. So far so good. I mean, I think top to bottom they certainly got stronger, they got deeper this summer. Losing Lukaku is definitely a blow, but I kind of like this. While Lukaku's out, this sort of Luka Højlund, you've got 2 center forwards who are both proper number 9s, but are also very different. You know, Luka you can use as your gigantic battering ram against teams that park the bus, and Højlund is somebody who can make a difference for you against teams that maybe play a little bit further up the pitch. Zambanguisa's back, McTominay's back. They shored up the back line a little bit, but with Belkema certainly. So, yeah, for me right now, Napoli are the team to beat.
Yeah. Welcome into the latest edition of Extra Time. We have Gab and Nadem joining us today. We've got Ali and Stevie here in the studio. And we've got quite a few questions to get through. So let's get started, shall we? If Amorim manages to beat Pep tomorrow, does that ease some of the early season pressure that he is inadequate to coach United, Nadem?
I think it definitely will ease some pressure, especially amongst the United fans as such. But I think for some people, you saw like United got 4 points against City last season, but their season was still classed as being a disaster. So I think maybe the bigger issue will be if they slip up against another team that, you know, maybe they're expected to win against. I think that's where our eyes have been across the last, say, year, 18 months as such. Not necessarily their ability to get up for those big games, like we saw against Arsenal, or like we saw against, say, Liverpool at Anfield last season. It's more so those games where they lose at home, games where they're losing to sides who they should never be losing to, should they have the aspirations that they do. So yeah, I think it buys some time, but realistically, that time isn't going to be as long as he'd hoped for.
Another one for you on the Manchester derby, Nadim. Even though a draw is not a bad outcome for both clubs or a bad prediction, would it be disappointing if the Manchester derby ended that way?
I think it depends how the game goes, to be honest, because we've all seen different types of draws. We've seen those types of draws where like both teams are going for it and it's a fantastic game of football. Then you've seen City versus United at Old Trafford last season, which is one game that I have to apologise for even mentioning it as such. So yeah, I don't know. But also to mention the predictions, tell me something more Mark Ogden than saying 0-0 in a derby and saying both teams are going to be a disaster. What a dour approach to life. Try and enjoy yourself, my man. Try and offer some goals, offer something. So yeah, I don't think it'll be a draw, but yeah, if it is, blame Oggy.
Wait. Was anybody else expecting something different from Mark?
I know, I love miserable Mark. It's just the right fit, right?
That is who he is.
Yes.
He's being true to himself. If you are out there and you get the sense that Mark Ogden is dour, he is. He is. What you see is what you get.
Stevie, you've seen a lot of football. Have you ever seen depth in defence like Arsenal have now?
No, I don't think I have. Yeah, it's incredible.
You're jealous?
Ever?
Yes.
Ever is a long time.
I absolutely am jealous. I wish Liverpool had as much depth at centre back as Arsenal do. My goodness, yeah. I am jealous, yes. I don't mind admitting it.
I'll tell you what, Milan in the 90s, they had some depth in that back line. I'm going to suggest that maybe they're better than whatever Arsenal got going on in that back line right now. It says, have you ever? Ever is a long time.
Well, it's still true.
All right, okay.
All right. Gab, is Juve-Inter the most competitive rivalry in the Serie A?
Well, I mean, historically, I think you can make the case. For a long time, these two teams had won the most Serie A titles. Obviously, then Milan won a bunch. And Milan, of course, have all those European Cups that they keep going on about. In fact, I think only Real Madrid have been champions of Europe more times than Milan. It is a rivalry. I think this whole Derby d'Italia thing is something that was kind of came about in the 70s and 80s when Juve got good again. Not that Juve were ever really bad, but I don't know. I still think when it comes to rivalry, for Inter, it's about Milan. It's about winning the derby in your town. For Juve, maybe they look down on Torino a little bit because they've been more successful over the years. So maybe for them, it's a little bit different. For me personally, look, I don't speak for all Italians. People may feel differently, but I don't like it when people say Derby d'Italia. I like it even less when they say Derby d'Italia because that makes no sense whatsoever. You pronounce it correctly, at least. But it just seems, I don't know, it seems slightly manufactured. Yeah, these are two very competitive teams, two big rivalries, but it just feels wrong to leave Milan out of the equation of Italy's big three teams, because it is a big three, it's not a big two.
Thank you. It's as if I married an Italian.
I know, as if, you know.
It's as if I did.
I'm glad that you're able to get through that.
Grazie.
I think Gab thought you were clapping him there.
Stevie, Isak has to start tomorrow, right?
No. No. No, he's not ready to start. And so, look, if you don't have Ekitike, you could have been forced to start him, but there's absolutely no reason to start him. It wouldn't be a smart move to start him anyway. He's absolutely 100% not ready. Doesn't have enough in his legs yet. And Ekitike scoring goals as well. So, no, absolutely 100% he won't start. I'll be shocked if he doesn't come on though.
Okay. Gab, how many goals for Højlund this season at Napoli with Kevin De Bruyne and McTominay as suppliers?
Well, I don't want to sound like one of those analytics guys, but the reality is Højlund's thing is he doesn't take a lot of shots. He has never taken a lot of shots. I think he's averaged, when he was at United, he averaged, I think, just over 1 shot per game. And it doesn't take a genius to figure out that, prolific strikers average a minimum of 2.5 a game. And he just doesn't shoot on goal much. So I don't think he's going to score much for Napoli, just as he didn't score that much for Atalanta when he was there. I don't think he's there to score goals. He's there to contribute in other ways. So in light of all that, and in light of the fact I think he's going to share playing time with Luka, and obviously Lukaku will return at some point, I'm going to say 10 goals.
10 goals. We should do the over or under.
Well, the over-under in which Gav says he's not an analytics guy, but then goes on to give us 17 different stats about the player.
All right.
Ali, you were a striker. You don't score. You don't score if you never shoot on goal. The guy never shoots on goal.
Finish the sentence.
That's all I'm saying.
I thought you were going to end it as you don't score. The pause was very long. It wasn't inaccurate. But...
All right. For the former players, I'll start with you, Ali, because it's from your personal chef.
Okay.
For away games, what did you usually do at the hotel or around the city the night before a game?
Well, usually you get into that city wherever you're going sometime around dinner time. You'll have a team meal. Some coaches like to do the video after that team meal. Others do it the day of the game. Team meal, then go back to your hotel room, sit around and either play cards or video games or watch a movie or... I mean, there isn't a whole lot that you can do. Then the next day it's a pain in the backside because you're laying around doing nothing. You do what some coaches like to do, the activation, the morning activation, in which you actually have to go for a walk somewhere and kind of break a sweat and a little stretch or something. Then you'll have a meal, a snack, and then after that you take off to the stadium and then play the game and hopefully go home after that.
Nadim, what were you doing night before a game in the hotel for the team?
Well, in England it was super boring, to be honest. I think in MLS there's a bit more nuance to that because sometimes you go maybe an extra day early and so on. But yeah, in England it's more a case if you get there in the evening, as Ali said, you've got food. And all I'll say from my side of things was in the sort of treatment room or the make-do treatment room, people just watching TV, they're watching Love Island, they're watching I'm a Celebrity, watching all X Factor, all these like silly TV programs that just waste time that you can all just casually watch together. And then, yeah, just off to bed before then embarking on the longest day ever, it feels like, as you wake up in the morning. And if it's a nighttime game, my word, all you do is sit around and eat, stretch, have a video or two talking about tactics, eat, stretch, and then go and play a game of football. So yeah, it's a little bit on the boring side, to be honest.
And just because it says that it's my personal chef, what I would say about the meals when you are a player, I don't care what country these meals are. They're all the same. It's bland chicken, it's pasta, it's bland rice. None of it is inspiring. None of it is like, oh, well, here comes a great meal that we're all going to enjoy together. It's usually, the pre-game meal is the same everywhere, and it's not great.
You poor things.
Well, no, I'm not. I was asked a question by my personal chef. I was addressing my personal chef, and I was saying the pre-game meals are not that tasty.
Yeah, you didn't want to put too much spice on it just in case the next day, you know. Stevie, what about you?
Bed.
Yes. Eat in his bed.
Eat in bed.
Okay, thought so.
End of
all
story.
Right. Nadim, how long does Potter have left at West Ham, and would Nuno get them out of the relegation zone?
Oh my gosh, could you imagine Nuno going straight in like that? I think given the fact that the fans never really bought into Potter, it doesn't feel like he's got that long left. And if there was to be a change, I wouldn't be surprised if it came potentially in the next international break, unless they managed to get a couple of results and a couple of really good performances as well. Because I think the performance side of things is probably one of the biggest factors, not just the results themselves. So yeah, if Nuno's available as well, then his stock is actually quite high because he's losing his job at a point where most people say he probably didn't deserve to. And yeah, I could potentially see it, and it'd be a shame for Potter because I thought this time coming back to the Premier League, he'd probably make a better sort of fist of it. But unfortunately, it's just not to be. So yeah, probably 4 weeks.
Gab?
Yeah, I'm shocked at how terrible Potter has been. But turning to Nuno makes very little sense to me. Partly because, well, not only because I don't like Nuno Espirito Santo at all. He did do a fine job. No, it's just not my. There's good people.
Did he say did he tell you wrong?
He's in the latter category. But Potter plays a certain brand of football, or tried to. Presumably, that team was built for Potter's brand of football. Nuno takes you in a totally different direction. So, unless you're willing to make some serious adjustments in double quick time, and there isn't much time during the season to make those adjustments, or go and spend some, maybe with Uncle George's help if Nuno comes in January, I don't think Nuno would necessarily make sense. But yeah, if West Ham keep playing like this, it's hard to see Graham Potter hang on to his job.
Don't expect Gab and Jules meet Nuno anytime soon on your podcast feed.
No.
Last question for Ale. Which of these Latin American cities would you send each panel member to for vacation?
Okay.
Panama City, Lima, Santiago, and Medellin.
Okay, so I'm gonna leave Stevie last because finding a match for Stevie is gonna be difficult.
I don't fancy any of them, actually.
Do you know where they are?
Actually, don't send me anywhere. I'll stay here.
I figure as much. If I imagine that you like ceviche, right?
Yes.
Yes, I'm gonna send you to Lima.
Okay.
Plus, you could extend that trip and go up to Machu Picchu. You like getting your steps in. There'll be plenty of steps to get up to Machu Picchu.
Thank you.
You can go to Lima. Gab, I'm gonna say Santiago. Yeah, I think Gab can go to Santiago. There are some areas in Santiago they have an Euro feel to it, and mind you, there are a lot of historic big rivalries in Chilean football that he can go and take in Santiago as well. He can go Colo-Colo against U de Chile, something like that. I think he would enjoy that as well. So there's an aspect to the football part of it that I think Gab and Jules would enjoy. So I'm going to send Gab to Santiago. Natum is going to Medellin, baby. He needs that flavor, and they need his flavor. yeah. I tell you what, Natum would be popular in Medellin. Natum would be popular in Medellin, so I'm going to send Natum to Medellin. And Stevie, I'm going to send to Panama City, Ciudad de Panama, because there is enough English being spoken in Ciudad de Panama where Stevie can at least defend himself a little bit. There's a lot of expats in Ciudad de Panama. So, and I think you could survive a little bit better. And best thing is, it's the shortest flight of all of them from here to there.
Unfortunately, I've lost my passport. Sorry.
You know
Can't go.
Oh, Stevie.
Can't go.
We tried.
Yes, I can only put the trip together. It's not my fault that people cannot find their passport.
And if I find it, I'm being late for the plane.
Oh boy, it's okay. That's not the spirit.
I haven't lost my passport. By the way. I'm just saying that.
You know what? Never mind.
Oh, really?
Hey, Natum, once you enjoy yourself in Medellin, it's a really short trip from Medellin to Ciudad de Panama, baby. Oh, it's gonna be a good trip for you, Natum.
Nice stuff. Nice, good question. Well thought out by Ale.
Okay.
Completely dismissed by Stevie Nicola.
Thank you, Stevie, for your participation.
I'm a culture vulture.
Absolutely
Yes,
not.
yes.
Thank you so much for sending in your questions. Make sure to join the team tomorrow to look back on the Manchester Derby with Alexis and the crew.